In this video, I'm going to show you how to complete the Artistic Brushes tutorial. We'll learn two things in this tutorial. The first is how to utilize Illustrator's Draw Inside mode. The second is how to change the look of the stroke that the brush tool makes. So when you're working with this tutorial, you'll notice that there is a set of instructions that's over to the right of the tutorial that just describes how to work with Draw Inside mode. So let's follow along with those instructions as I show you visually in this video. So the first thing says that you are going to select the path of the square format with the black selection arrow. So I'm using my selection tool and I am selecting the path of this rectangular format. Next it says click on the Draw Inside icon, which is located under the None fill on the toolbar. So here's where the None fill is, and when I have selected that path, you'll see that I get this little icon is available for me to use that says Draw Inside. So I'm going to click Draw Inside. And what that's going to allow to happen is that the lines that I make, or the strokes that I make inside of this box, will stay inside of this regardless of where my brush goes. Only the strokes inside of this area will be visible. So next it says I should see brackets appear around the square format. That's these little brackets, and that's a little visual indicator telling me that I am just working inside of that shape. Next it says deselect the square by clicking anywhere in the document. Or I can deselect by using the keyboard shortcut of Control Shift and the letter A. I'm going to select a brush from the brush library to use. So let me select my brush on the toolbar, and then to find the brush library on the panel bar, I'm going to go to this icon that shows me a can of brushes. If you don't see this icon on your panel bar, you can find that icon under Window and go here to Brushes. Okay, but I'm just going to open that either way. And then to find the library for that icon, it's this thing here. It looks like it's supposed to look like a set of books leaning against each other on a shelf. So when I click this, I'll be opening up the brush library. This tutorial works with artistic brushes, so I'm going to go here to the menu of artistic brushes. The first brush says I want to work with a calligraphic brush, and I'm going to use that calligraphic brush. Okay, I'm looking at this set of brushes and I want to try to find the 30-point flat. It's not very helpful for me to understand which of these brushes are the 30-point flat. I can hover over all the ones that say 30 point, but I can also choose to go here and show me these brushes as a list view, and if you do, then you'll see the name of the brush, and I can see that this tells me that this brush is the 30-point flat. I also want to change the color of my stroke to red. So that's here. Make sure that the stroke is the active attribute, and I can either double click on this attribute on the stroke on the panel bar, on the toolbar here, and then pick red, or while that is the active attribute, I can use the color here and pick red that way. Either way, when I have my brush set with red, I am going to be just making a few strokes in here that show what the brush can do. And you'll notice, regardless of where I put the stroke, it stays within that little box. I don't want to fill the entire box because I want to see the shape that the brush can make. I'm just going to ask you to put a few strokes in there. All right, let me just move this over for a moment. And it says next, after I've finished making my strokes with that brush and in that color, then I am going to leave Draw Inside mode. Here I am, leave Draw Inside mode by clicking on either of the other drawing modes, which would be these two, or I find it easier to use the keyboard shortcut of Shift and the letter D. So here's Shift and the letter D, and you'll notice those brackets go away. So I'm ready to repeat that process with the next square in the tutorial. I'm going to use my selection tool to select that box. I'm going to enter Draw Inside mode by clicking on this icon under the None fill. and then I'm going to deselect by clicking anywhere else. And I just want to show you what happens if you don't deselect your path first. Then when I apply this other brush, chalk, stroke, blah, 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 this box will take on the effect of that stroke, and that's not what I want. So I want to make sure that I deselect that. So now that it's deselected, I'm going to navigate in the menu to the chalk menu. So if you have already got the artistic brushes open, then from the bottom of that panel you can load the next brush library, and all of these go in order. So all you would need to do is click on the right hand side arrow and you'll see that I now have my other set of brushes. So I'm looking for the chalk menu, the chalk brush, and I want this one to be at a 3 point. So here's where my stroke is. I'm going to set that at a 3, and this says I want the color orange. So as long as this is the active attribute, the stroke is the active attribute on the toolbar, I can just click here to find orange. And then it says I want a width profile of number 2. This little box here next to the stroke where it says uniform is where you can put a width profile. So I'm going to drag that down, and this is width profile 1, and this is width profile number 2. So I'm going to grab my brush. When I have all those settings done, I'm going to work to make that shape here, and you'll notice it only stays right inside that box. I'm just going to put a couple of marks in there to show that I've used those attributes, and then I can leave draw inside mode with shift and the letter D. Let's do one more. Here's again the black selection arrow. I'm selecting this box. I'm using draw inside mode. I'm deselecting so that the mark I make will happen inside the box, not to the box. And then I'm going to find the next brush. It's the chalk scribble. So I'm looking for the chalk scribble. I need a 2-point stroke. That's here, 2-point stroke. I again want orange. I'm going to make mine just a little bit darker orange this time. So let's do that there. And then I want a width profile number 3. So I'm going to utilize width profile number 3. I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to draw that line in here so that you can see the mark that it's making. To leave this and move on to the next, it's shift and the letter D, and then I'm ready to do the next box. When you get to the ones like here that are asking you for an overlay, what I'm asking you to do is overlap those 2 strokes. So I'm going to just show you this one so that you can see what's going on in that and what I mean. I'm going to select the box. I'm going to enter draw inside mode, deselect. I'm going to find this, which is the ink menu. Now I'm moving forward a little bit. You'll of course do these in order, but I just want to progress. So here's my ink, and I'm looking for the ink dark ink wash. So I see that here, dark ink wash. That's supposed to be a light blue. So I'm going to pick a light blue color here, and I'm going to make that brush first. Okay, and then it says I want a dry ink 1, which is dry ink 1. That should be in dark blue, so I'm going to pick a dark blue, and I'm going to overlay that, which means make sure that that overlaps the other one, not that there's one line over here and one line somewhere else. Okay, so that that would overlap the other one. That's what I mean by overlay. The rest of these, the same thing. If you see that there's more than one stroke in there, I'm just going to ask you to put those strokes one on top of the other. Okay, shift and the letter D to leave one drawing mode and select another box and go into the drawing mode of draw inside.